All right, can I have everybody's attention, please? We have a really interesting session coming up. I'm going to introduce our two co-hosts, Arki and Marcus. Please welcome to the stage with a big round of applause.
Lovely to see everyone here. It's awesome when we put these things together and you're thinking, does anybody care? Either people care or you're all in the wrong room. It's wonderful to see everyone here. We're really looking forward to talking to you about the partnership that we've had, the story about Jamf and Okta, and what we can do together. How we can have these tools that are really awesome on their own, but what we've been able to do together to get them to work really well and provide some awesome tools for you to move into the future of modern identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good catch, Marcus.
All right.
Yeah, so again, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Arkadius, but let's keep it short. Just call me Arki, so it's the easiest way. I'm part of the product organization at Okta. I'm working as a principal product acceleration specialist and spent about 25 years in IT now. So while I'm saying this, I'm feeling really old, but it's okay. Yeah, I worked in different roles, different responsibilities, and the intersection of devices and identity was always a passion of mine, and I'm thrilled to deep dive into this topic together with Marcus. So let's kick it off.
So thanks, Arki. I'm Marcus Ransom. I'm a senior sales engineer with Jamf. From my accent, you may tell that I'm based in Melbourne in Australia. And I've been managing Macs sort of since the late 90s. And I've really enjoyed watching the evolution of Apple devices and how they now integrate into enterprise environments. They're no longer the devices that are standing off to the side and nothing kind of works. I also really hate passwords. How about we start looking at better ways to prove who you are. So we're going to break things down into these topics, starting with discussing identity broadly on macOS.
Yeah, then we will have a deep dive on Okta Device Access to not only discuss but also showcase you the different integration and how our product looks and operates like.
But you might be saying, what about Jamf Connect? So we're going to have a look at the tools that are contained within that and how they can be used with these workflows from Okta.
Yeah, and lastly, we are going to showcase you additional integrations from the Okta side, how we can integrate these workflows into a more modern and also secure experience on a macOS.
So let's get started. Before we start looking at where identity is today, I think it's important to understand how we got here. So, in the beginning, we couldn't even bind to a directory server. Mac OS 10, we started with NetInfo and then Open Directory. I hope I'm not inflicting too much pain on the people that lived through those days. But it wasn't until Panther 10.3 in 2003 when we could bind a Mac to Active Directory with a native plugin. Now, this wasn't without its challenges. Anybody here attempt to modify the schema? They will remember what that was like. And then there were issues with Kerberos and the keychain. So we saw a lot of tools like this. Does anybody remember these tools here? I want to shout out the names of these. I see a few hands there. I don't know if Ben Toms is in the room. We can ask him to keep updating some of these. But then things started to get really interesting. So Joel Rennick left Apple and created Nomad. After years of showing us how to bind to Active Directory, we now discovered there's a better way. And then Apple released Enterprise Connect, which was another solution that embraced devices as mobile workstations that were free of the domain. And then this was quickly followed by the Kerberos single sign-on extension, a built-in workflow for syncing your local password with a directory server. But these still relied on your device having network access to the directory server.
Yeah, so we are both lucky enough to be remote employees, and yeah, we're all aware of these challenges that it poses, and everybody agreed that it was quite a good idea to get rid of kind of directory that is really bounded, that you have to be in the office to do your proper work, right?
And also moving where the directory server was. So, this coincided with organizations embracing cloud identity and the rise of identity providers like Okta. So we saw tools like Jamf Connect appear. We were able to create accounts and log in by validating your cloud identity credentials, and including things like MFA.
Yeah, and then Apple announced the extensible single sign-on extension, which allowed you to use cloud identity credentials for authenticating to services, and especially to streamline the user experience. So, quick poll in the room: anybody is using or is aware of Okta FastPass?
Yeah.
Nice,
yeah.
nice. Yeah, we will cover this topic also in a later stage in the presentation with some demos. But yeah, great to see so many folks here.
And then finally, we saw Apple announce platform single sign-on in 2021. So really integrating that cloud identity into the operating system, as well as the applications and services that we need to speak to. Yeah,
but maybe let's take a quick rewind and discuss the topic that should be on top of mind of everyone. So identity is security, and has become the new perimeter. So everybody is aware that gone are these days where a secure firewall was really enough to keep the bad guys out, right? And, next slide. These stats here really paint us a very picture. So overall, 80% of breaches really stem from attacks on identity. And we are not talking about phishing attempts, breach credentials. We're also talking about all the session cookies that were extra filtered or stolen by bad actors. And these are moving literally through networks without an alarming ease. On average, it takes 292 days not only to identify, but only to contain a breach. So we are talking about 10 months of potential exposure. 10 months, right? So, and we've seen overall a 3 times increase in breaches year over year, and this is massive. And all of these breaches have been based on identities, and we from Okta think that attackers are no longer breaking in, they are logging in. And that's why protecting identities must be really our top priority. And that's why we need to have the right answers and the right solutions for it.
So there's been a bunch of other challenges when it comes to bringing identity into the Mac platform and Apple in general.
PCs and Macs come with different inherent security features out of the box, and with Apple's new platform single sign-on frameworks, these features can only be leveraged with support of baking-in identity providers like Okta, and Macs are also require a different approach than PCs that are domain joined, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something we're probably preaching to the converted here as well, is that the audience here, I'm guessing, understand that we need a different solution for Apple devices to be able to leverage the built-in secure by design approach. And especially in an organization where the most sensitive data that you have in a mixed fleet may actually be accessed on a Mac. So, you may have executives that are using Macs. You may have your developers, that people that are creating the code for your public-facing applications, where there is a lot of risk. So it's really important knowing that to make sure you get the security right. And, as we said before, security is identity. Identity is security, so we need to make sure we do that correctly. And we don't want to do that in a fragmented and siloed manner where we're taking little bits and pieces from over the place and from different platforms and just kind of hoping that it's going to work.
Yeah, and OS level SSO concept has not been disrupted in decades now, and we are luckily now in this phase where companies like Apple and Okta pushing the binaries to next, right?
Having this built into the operating system rather than things that we're trying to dance around is something that's really exciting. So we know that organizations have struggled to solve these challenges because up until now they've really had to build custom tooling and developing manual processes with the void that's been there without first-party solutions in the operating system. There's been amazing solutions out there, but it's really nice to not have to do that anymore.
Yeah, and overall we at Okta envision a world that resolves many of those identity-centric issues on a Mac side, right? So we deliver a kind of identity security fabric that is a foundation of a truly comprehensive approach to identity security, because number one, it's end-to-end protection. The second topic is orchestration. And number three, it's a seamless integration, because identity is more than just single sign-on and MFA these days. And it's all about seamless integration with the best of breed technologies like, in our case, Apple Business Manager and the top-notch MDMs like Jamf Pro, right? Okay, so let's continue and let's deep dive into our topic, Okta Device Access. So this is what the product is all about. So one topic, but many features and functionalities that we will highlight and showcase in the next minute. So starting from the left to the right, we will talk about just-in-time local account creation, where you can create an account directly from the login screen. We will talk for sure about desktop password sync, known as platform SSO. We heard and saw the big announcement during the keynote. We will also discuss and touch base the desktop MFA part to really secure the device. We will give you a sneak peek of our latest and greatest features that we are working on from the Okta side called device-bound SSO, and a great functionality like device lockout that secures your overall security posture.
All right, so we know that quite a lot of people here want to know about platform single sign-on. All of the discussions I've been having with all of my customers and with a lot of the people here has been about platform single sign-on. So why don't we get started and have a look at what platform single sign-on is at the moment.
Yeah, so with desktop password sync and now so-called platform SSO, our customers can leverage to keep their Okta passwords and the local passwords always in sync, even if they're leveraging FileVault. So users can authenticate with a recently resetted password on the lock screen, but also on the logging screen, enable them to leverage only one password. When we are talking with our customers, our slogan, and we are always messaging, hey, for you all, it's one less password to remember, right? And we're even more excited about the new macOS 26 setup assistant experience that we saw during the keynote and that we will also highlight in the next slides.
Yeah, so let's have a look now at what the current state of platform single sign-on is at the moment. So we can see here, at the moment, once you're logged in, the user sees the notification and they need to click that and then they go through the process of setting this up. Authenticating with Okta, with multi-factor authentication, of course, to really ensure who they are, who they say they are is who they actually are, and then that integrates that into the operating system. So the operating system will then synchronize those passwords and grant access to all of the services that are gated behind Okta.
In this whole process, we are also enrolling the user into our phishing-resistant authenticator called Okta FastPass that we will discuss in a later step.
Yeah.
Yeah, once the authentication is complete, we're closed. The user is successfully enrolled into Okta FastPass, like mentioned. And if we hover over to the user settings in the macOS, we can see that the user is successfully registered and has a valid token when it comes to single sign-on.
And is a standard user as well, so you can actually control what the level of user access is based on identity groups.
Yeah, let's continue with the use case for more of our how-educated customers. For example, if you want to leverage shared macOS devices, right? So we within Okta Device Access supporting, as mentioned, just-in-time account provisioning at the login screen. It's super easy, so once the user is getting onboarded into Okta, manually or through processes via HR system SSOs, he or she will be assigned to the applications, and once this is done, and all the different configuration payloads were successfully distributed via Jamf, means we have the SCAP certificate on the device, we have the PSSO configuration in place. That's it. I can log in with my Okta username to the macOS device and enjoy the work, right?
Yeah. So let's see what this looks like.
Okay. From the Okta perspective, as mentioned, we have different options. So navigating over to the application sections, this is our platform single sign-on applications. Let's assign a new user called Harry. Harry just joined the company, so we see the macOS account and the full name that we can adjust in our directory. And hovering over to the macOS device, we see here Harry was onboarded. We are just logging in with the Okta username, with the Okta password, and then the typical user creation and onboarding flow starts, right, Marcus?
Yeah, and using the native login window and all of the mechanisms contained in there. So we can see how seamlessly you can grant people access to devices on the fly without needing to modify the device at all. And they get the standard login experience. You can curate that however you want based on how you're configuring that in MDM.
Yeah, and one important topic that we can control within the MDM payloads, as already mentioned, so you can decide if the new user that was onboarded and successfully logged in the device is a standard one or an admin one, right? So this is the last piece of the puzzle, like you saw in the previous demos. So we are finishing the platform SSO enrollment based on the powerful authentication policies that we delivering within our applications. You can prompt the user for MFA, Okta Verify Push, FIDO2. You got the choice with our powerful authentication policy. Then you're typing in the Okta password the last time. We are finalizing the registration. And again, one less password to remember. And last but not least, the new user that successfully registered or logged into the device called Harry is only a standard user based on the MDM profile. Cool. Let's continue.
Yep.
Desktop MFA?
Yeah, let's look at desktop MFA. So Okta's got lots of integrations with Jamf. From Jamf account single sign-on, something we spoke a lot about in the keynote and the State of the Union. So that's the modern way of accessing your cloud consoles, especially our new microservices like blueprints and compliance benchmarks. But also using Okta for enrollment customizations. You can provide that seamless onboarding experience for a user, but also secure with MFA, and then populate the local account creation screen. But Okta can also be used as an LDAP interface, so you can pull user and group attributes into Jamf to be able to use that to build out scenarios for who has access to what applications, configurations, those sorts of things.
Yeah, great. And with the desktop MFA for macOS feature, we really secure the first vulnerable touch point, the device account. So we really can ensure that users are required to provide a higher level of insurance. So when they are online, for example, using a pre-enrolled UB/security key to log in successfully the device, or leveraging our own Okta Verify application with a push and biometrics recognition. And last but not least, we also offer offline access, for example, in scenarios when the user is not connected to the internet, so we can leverage our own applications with an TOTP that was created or generated during the initial onboarding. Marcus, do you want to guide us through the demo?
Yeah, so we can see in here, for example, an organization that says that you need to use a FIDO2 key to fulfill the MFA requirements for accessing this Mac. So we can see here they've authenticated, and then they get prompted to put in their access key from their FIDO2 key before they can get into that device. So if you have those sorts of security policies in your organization, then you're able to implement that in macOS.
Yeah, that's great. So again, we are securing the first vulnerable touch point, the device login, right?
Yeah.
Another feature that we would like to highlight today is our admin recovery for macOS. Here we offer the users to bypass MFA. But to bypass MFA, for example, in scenarios when the user forgot his YubiKey or lost his phone, he or she can just call the IT. The Okta admin will hover over to the Okta console, will create a kind of temporary code that is valid for 2 minutes. Once the user was verified on the phone, or maybe your organization is leveraging IDV solutions, we are handing over this code to the user, and the user is able to temporarily log in for the day with this temporary code to continue his work, right?
So let's see what this looks like.
Yeah.
So we can see here we've got the user that's realized they don't have their second factor on them. Their second factor is maybe, sitting on the bench at home or is in a taxi somewhere. So they need to contact IT and follow whatever process there is to validate who they are. And then they get given that timed recovery PIN that they're able to put in, and then that satisfies their multi-factor authentication. So we can see here, this is where the person they're talking to in IT goes to get those credentials and hands them over to them.
Yeah, once the code is generated, we are handing over to the user. The user is typing in the code that was created by the Okta admin, and the user can successfully log in. 1 hour remaining, so all these values are configurable via your Jamf Pro MDM payload. So pretty easy to set up, pretty easy for the Okta admin to generate the code, because as mentioned, can happen when you are somewhere without your phone or without a security key, right?
It happens. We all know that things are going to happen in organizations, and having a plan B and a plan C to be able to deal with those is a wise choice. So as we said before, how does Jamf Connect fit into this workflow? So it's really important to think of Jamf Connect in the new context of Jamf for Mac. So Jamf for Mac is all about giving you the freedom to choose the tools that are the right ones for your organization. Not get caught up in these procurement battles where you're pitching similar capabilities against each other because of price or what you're using on other platforms. And so you can actually have all of the capabilities that Jamf offers, and then choose to use the ones that make sense in your organization. And if you've got a better fit with another tool, like Platform Single Sign-On, in your organization, then that's the right choice for you to be making. And then we've probably also got some really cool integrations that are going to make that tool even better in your organization. So privilege elevation, for example, really useful feature of Jamf for Mac that was originally part of Jamf Connect, but it's now delivered through Self-Service Plus, letting users perform an authentication to Okta to be able to make sure they are who they say they are and what groups they are a member of. And then being able to apply the relevant permissions, how long they're able to elevate for, how many times they're able to elevate, and then ask them to provide a reason of why they're elevating. And those reasons are captured, and all of this is fed back to your SIEM using Jamf's telemetry and unified log capabilities, so that organisations can verify that the activities that they performed matched the reasons that were provided. And most importantly, it allows users to stay productive whilst maintaining those security controls and the visibility you need. So there's a great session on just after this about Self-Service Plus if you want more information. And then there's Jamf's implementation of Network Relay, which is another important component of what was the Jamf Connect license. But it's now part of Jamf for Mac. So no more having to navigate these complex configuration and installation of legacy VPN tools to be able to securely connect your device to the resources they need, whether they're on-prem or hosted in the cloud. And this is built on the same technology that iCloud Private Relay was built on, and using, once again, functionality that's built into the operating system rather than having to layer additional software on. It gives a device-level connection, allowing you to then leverage the power of Okta to determine, based on the user, what they're able to access. So you can see here in this example here, the device got a SCEP certificate from a SCEP server that was not accessible to the internet at the setup assistant. So before the user had even logged in. So if you've got protected servers or systems, you're able to get a very strong hardware-bound assurance that this device is what it says it is and give the device access right from the start without any interaction at all. So make sure to watch these 2 sessions on Thursday where we've got folks from Jamf going through Network Relay in greater detail, and then especially this one where Matt Vlasak and Dr. K are going to piece network relays, managed device attestation, and platform single sign-on together to show you the full picture of using these tools. So let's have a look at some of the other tools which aren't necessarily part of Okta Device Access or what was Jamf Connect that will help you to build out this secure environment and not leave gaps that lead to insecure practices or a poor user experience, because it's really important, as Aki said, to look at the big picture and make sure you've got everything covered.
Yeah, we as Okta can integrate for provisioning, authentication, and also for risk signal sharing with Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. Super easy to set up, so you just create an application out of our Okta integration network that has more than 8,000 integrations, set it up on the Apple Business Manager side of the house, and then all your managed Apple accounts are secured with Okta. So it was very important to say manage Apple accounts and not manage Apple IDs.
Yes.
I've learned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next one, and everybody will agree that basic MFA is not good enough anymore, right? We need to have a phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication. And we want to go passwordless with Okta FastPass, our flagship passwordless authentication solutions that we launched a couple of years ago. So Okta FastPass really gives you a super secure, fast solution across the different major platforms like iOS, iPadOS, and for sure macOS. And we as Okta seen millions of Apple devices connecting and authenticating via Okta FastPass, which is great. So having the option to integrate with additional tools on our side within our powerful authentication policies like OS query to check if a device is managed or not managed, but giving you the ability to log in a really cool and secure manner is very, very important for us. Because comparing it, for example, to a Formula 1 race, at the start, at the Formula 1 start, it's not only the start, right? So we are securing the device with desktop MFA. We still have the first corner that we need to survive, and leveraging Okta FastPass, your phishing-resistant authentication.
Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, leveraging Apple's extensible single sign-on framework, which are the building blocks of platform single sign-on. This is something we use at Jamf. I really enjoy this, where really the only time I need to enter in my password is unlocking file vault. The rest of the time, it's biometrics, which allows me, we use a lot of SaaS tools, and I can access them without needing to type in my secure password, which is great. So check out this session on Thursday as well from our own CPE team at Jamf, talking about how we deploy Okta, including FastPass in our environment.
Yeah, so Marcus, now I learned you're an Okta Pro, so please guide us to the next demo, right?
Yeah, for sure. So let's take a look at this workflow where FastPass is combined with desktop MFA. So we can see the user logs in, providing the factors that have been mandated by your policy. And so then when they get to the desktop, after validating who they are with this FIDO key, we'll see that they're going to have access to the resources they need. Because we've already validated who we are, if we go down here to Chrome, we're in.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're leveraging, for example, different browsers. Hey, open up a new session, you will get the same user experience. You decide how the user experience is looking like. if you want to be prompted for Touch ID, etc. It's the same like for all the connected applications. You have the power to create your own authentication policies or even hovering over to the Okta admin console. Everything built in, and as mentioned in the beginning during the platform SSO section, while you are successfully registering for platform SSO, we are enrolling you automatically in Okta FastPass, and you can leverage this amazing and secure user experience.
And so an example I discovered coming over here for Denver is the device was able to work out that it's not where it usually is. And so Okta knew about that, so I was required to provide additional biometrics and really validate who I was to make sure that it was in fact me that had gone to a different country. And it didn't really get in the way, but it's just understanding that it provided that additional layer of validation of who I am, where I am, what's happening on the device. So what else have we got coming?
Yeah, so as discussed and looking into the room at the PMs coming later this year, we are very excited about this next feature on macOS called device-bound single sign-on. You may have heard this teased at Octane last year as True Device SSO, and this will allow us to create cryptographically bound session in the secure enclave signed by the platform SSO keys and all the benefits that it brings with us. So this session really cannot be replayed from another device, right? And creates primarily OS account to Okta account linkage and reduces the authentication prompts. So you saw the demo that you can leverage and adjust Okta FastPass in different flavors, but this is the next level of security as mentioned because this is bounded to the device and in the secure enclave. So we are super excited about this one. So stay tuned, keep an eye, one ear out of our blogs. It's going to be amazing.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, last but not least, and during the beginning I mentioned it within our Identity Fabric stories that we are driving security orchestration also for the topic in the post-authentication protection. That brings us to our solution called Okta Identity Threat Protection with Okta AI. So with so-called ITP, we have a solution that's really laser focused on post-authentication protection and securing identities in real time. And looking at the picture here, this is how ITP brings it all together. So step one, we are ingesting signals when the user is interacting with Okta. We are getting, for example, signals from our own Okta Verify applications. Plus, you see it also on the left side, we are getting signals from powerful security provider like Jamf Security Cloud to leverage the shared signals framework that we actively working on really to get these real-time signals. Then we are converting this signal into context, and the next step is that our comprehensive policy framework is really leveraging this context to evaluate regressions in security posture. And then the policies are evaluated based on your global session policy or all your different application policies that are configured in your Okta tenant. And then you have the ability to execute or to act and do the real-time action or the precise responses like prompting again for MFA, executing a security workflow that was designed by our low-code/no-code Okta Workflows capability, or if a really high risk is detected, you can press the red button and do the magic trick and lock the user out of all the supported applications with our feature called Universal Lockout, which is quite cool, right?
Yeah. So, let's go to the next one. So part of the beauty of ITP is using all of the information that you have access to. So not just the information that you're getting out of Okta, but as Aki said, using the other tools that you have and the information you've got everywhere else to give you more context. So Jamf has got an integration with ITP using shared signals framework in Jamf Security Cloud. And that's right, that's included as part of Jamf for Mac. So Jamf Security Cloud can calculate that risk severity for a device based on things like vulnerable applications or operating system version. There we go. In addition, you can use Jamf for routines, which is our low-code, no-code solution. part of Jamf for Mac, part of Business Plan, and so you can signal the risk severity from a device based on smart group membership in Jamf Pro. So you can decide all of the criteria you want and then signal to Jamf Security Cloud that the device is now at an elevated risk, and Jamf Security Cloud will signal that to Okta ITP. So we configure the shared signals framework there, which is the method that's being used commonly. We can see that with Apple Business Manager, Apple School Manager.
Absolutely.
And I think if you look, you will find lots of the tools that you're using have access to this. Now, if you find this interesting, some of our colleagues, Matt and Sam from Jamf, Dan from Okta, and a tool from Signal are going to be talking about shared signals framework and continuous access evaluation profile in this session here. But what if logging out of services isn't enough, Arki?
Yeah, no problem, Marcus. So we got you covered. So another security orchestration in so-called identity threat protection is that we are logging the user also out of the impacted macOS devices. So we are not only kicking you out of the applications, but we're also making sure that we will log you out of the device. And the good thing is for our overall customers, you can leverage device lockout in 2 flavors. So if you are already an Okta device access customer, you can execute this device lockout out of the Okta console, or for example, if you offboard a user, this will also execute the device lockout on the macOS device. Or if you want to do the full-blown security story, and combining Okta device access with identity threat protection means that if a high risk or an overall risk is detected, the so-called entity risk policy will also execute the device lockout.
Yeah. So one of the other tools that Jamf for Mac provides, which you can use as part of this secure device and identity workflow, is telemetry and unified logs. So this is a rich source of pre-configured and easily customizable data that can go into your SIEM. And it's using Apple's native mechanisms like the endpoint security APIs and unified log predicates. So, most Mac admins are going to be familiar with how to capture information out of unified logs, and then how they're able to send that to the SIEM, where that can be analyzed and used alongside other tools to give you more information. And so that's able to then validate and augment what you're getting from your other tools. And so that gives you increased visibility, very much macOS platform specific, that you may not be getting out of your other tools, but it may also be able to show you where maybe there's a false positive, or you may actually realize you're missing something that's going on, and you may be missing a critical incident. But this can also be used to identify opportunities where you can automate things. So you may be seeing that users are elevating to install a particular application that maybe you can provide with Jamf app installers, or you can build a self-service plus workflow to allow people to do this without needing to authenticate. So let's
run through a common scenario. So the user already logged in with Okta device access and Okta FastPass, and unfortunately clicks on a phishing link. No Okta email, so we see malware was behind the screen. Jamf Protect immediately elevates the risk, and we see that the security level will raise up to high. In this moment, they are sending us via the open shared signals framework the high risk, and based on our so-called entity risk policy, we are executing the magic thing like Universal Lockout. We are kicking the user out of the Salesforce applications. We are kicking the user out of the Okta dashboard, and as described in the last slide, we are also executing our latest innovation called device lockout and logging the user out of the macOS device. That's it.
But there's probably something else that everybody's here to see, I'm guessing. So we've always been asking for a better way of onboarding platform single sign-on. And in June, Apple promised to fulfill our dreams in Tahoe, where no longer do we have to wait and hope that the user is going to click that little notification up on the right-hand side, but we can actually get a bit of surety about that. So you want to talk us through what we're doing here, Arki?
So everybody's familiar with the screen. So out of the box, zero-touch enrollment. Once the user unboxes this device, securing the connection, he or she will be redirected to Okta, where you can design your authentication policy. In this case, we will leverage the username and the FIDO2 security key, because no password is needed, right?
And this is great because, as I said before, I really hate passwords. So the fewer times you need to use this to get in, the better. And the most important part is that the platform single sign-on registration is now happening at the setup assistant, thanks to the work that Okta and Jamf have done implementing the simplified setup for platform single sign-on that Apple gave us in macOS 26.
Yeah, the account is automatically created. You can pick your logo and continue, enable your, for example, location services, enable or create or configure a Touch ID that we can leverage in a later step for Okta FastPass that we discussed. And then Marcus, the last step.
Yeah, and so no more hoping that the user clicks these notifications. They literally can't proceed without doing this. So you're setting up the whole thing right at the start as part of that onboarding. And then we end up at the desktop, and you can see here we've already got access to all of our tools. The moment they hit the desktop, they've got access to any of the resources they need. So, that's pretty exciting. That's something we've been waiting for a while, and we're really looking forward to when this might be available for people to use.
Hopefully, so in the next week. So again, looking at our looking at my PMs. So no promises, safe harbor, but we hope very, very soon. So if you are interested in a more advanced demo, because you can adjust this onboarding flows with different flavors, right? So if you want to leverage, as already mentioned, IDV verification with driver license, etc., all this is possible. So yeah, amazing work by the Jamf team, amazing work. Also kudos to the Okta team. So this is great. It was highlighted in the overall main session. And super excited about this one, right?
And also thank you to Apple for implementing all of this right into the operating system. It gives us a great foundation to work on to be able to get this into the hands of people, and really looking forward to seeing what people see when they get it in their hands and start testing this in their environment to see how it works. So,
we really loved showing you how far identity has come on macOS. Gone are these days where it was super hard or difficult to deploy. So with tools like from Apple, Jamf, and Okta, it's super flexible, super secure, and I think I mentioned it to Marcus, so a statement from a friend of mine. So each of the solution is individually excellent, but together they are collectively spectacular.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that then Apple devices are now first-class citizens in your environment. They've got these purpose-built tools that unleash the powerful capabilities that are built right into the hardware and the operating system. So I think we've got a couple of minutes for questions. So I can see first one down here. Yeah, wait for the microphone.
Hold on, sorry, let me run you the microphone.
Microphone's coming.
And we got time for really only one, so make it really good.
How do you deal with file vault and multiple users? So file vault's activated on the machine, but multiple users access this machine.
So with platform single sign-on, the file vault, if you are connected to a network, you can unlock file vault with your cloud identity password. There are some very specific requirements about the network that need for that to work. So the network Wi-Fi needs to work without needing certificates or anything that would be contained within. It needs to be the default Wi-Fi, those sorts of things. So I think this is something where test in your organization and see if this works with the tools that you've got.
This was introduced in Sequoia, so hover over to your Jamf Pro console, you will see there keys like attempted authentication, so many options. Hover over also to our documentation, we have it written well down, so enjoy, good question.
All right, please give these two a big round of applause. Thank you so much for coming up on stage.
Thanks, everyone.
We appreciate it, guys. They will be around for some questions out there. Even if you are waiting for the next session, you guys do have to leave the hall. So thank you for coming. We appreciate it. See you in the next one.
Yeah, and we'll be outside if anybody's got any questions they want to ask.